What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Common Sense, the podcast. Season 3, we made it. It's, what is this, episode 81 now? Yeah, 81. So, really glad to kick this one off.
80. We didn't count the bonus, so this is 80.
Okay, all right. We didn't count the Easter egg. All right, well, I can't think of a better way to start it off because I've been trying to get this one booked for like a year and a half or so, and I'm super to have him here, man. What's up, Ryan Stewman?
What's going on, man? Glad to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you, man.
Thanks for the cigar.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get that out of the way real quick too, because people will beat the shit out of us if we don't tell them what we're smoking. So
this first cigar I've smoked a long time is not full of weed. You know, so.
There you go. Just as good. Just as good. So you got the Atabey Domino's. That's what you're smoking on.
It's good too, y'all.
Yeah, and I am smoking on the Olive Millennia 2023 anniversary edition, and then yeah, that's what we're smoking on today. So any of y'all got comments, questions about those, we can throw them out there for you. But for those of you that don't know who motherfucking Ryan Stewman is, dude, tell everybody a little bit about your story. Give them the 2-minute version, because I mean, most people know who you are.
I'm Dallas native, so it's really cool to be here local. I actually live in this city, so it's like super close. It's a 5-minute drive here. Born and raised Texas my whole life. I'm a prolific mistake maker. If we're just going to be honest about who I am, I've probably fucked up in every way possible in life. From, was adopted at an early age, been to prison a couple times, divorced a couple times, turned my life around. Probably 10 years ago when I met my current wife, she's been probably the greatest mentor that I could ever have. I'm a business owner, a father of 4 kids, got 3 boys and a girl. I run a program called Apex where we help people become the greatest version of yourself. And I own a few other companies, been in finance for 21 years at this point. So, you're getting old when you're like, I've been at something for multiple decades. You know what I mean? But you'll probably figure out more about me as we just get going through this.
Yeah.
So, if you don't know me.
I feel you on that. This month, actually, I think tomorrow is my 16 years at Element. So,
wow.
Yeah. That's
with the same job for 16 years?
Same job. Well, I started out.
You're a partner
company.
though, right?
Yeah, I am now.
Okay.
Yeah, I started off in the estimating world and then into sales and now a partner. So, but yeah, 16 years with one company. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago.
Climbing the company ladder. I love it, man.
Damn, man. Yeah. But yeah, let's start off a little bit about Apex, because like Apex is something I looked into for a long time. It's something I'm a member of. I think it's pretty badass, man. And a lot of these things, like you guys see me post and talk about these different events that I go to because I believe highly in self-education and making yourself better and going to these things and networking, meeting people, growing, having that mindset. So I push myself all the time. For those of you here in DFW, Apex is in your backyard. Like, I mean, I think it's 5 minutes from my house, like you Plano Parkway and
in the tollway.
Pretty much. So,
first of all, I appreciate that. I'm really here to maybe pour into your people and entertain them and stuff more than sell to them. But I do appreciate the opportunity. Apex has got a simple mission. We're trying to help people become the greatest version of themselves. That's a very difficult mission because it sounds good. It's like working out with David Goggins. Sounds good till David's yelling at you, calling you a pussy. You know what I mean? And we don't do that, obviously, but we're really trying to help as many. I think the biggest problem we have in the world right now is lack of responsibility, lack of integrity, lack of wanting to be a servant, and lack of excellence. And we're trying to do our part to turn that around, one person, one organization, one influencer at a time, to create leaders in their own marketplace and in their own industry, in their own neighborhoods, in their own cities, that can really be an example of somebody who is really trying to be the best version of themselves and hoping that that's contagious. That's what we're really trying to do. And there's sales, marketing, business stuff, and great people in the network. But the idea is for someone to become Apex, get the skills they need to become a greater version of themselves, and people be like, it's like when you used to be fat and then you go to the gym and every day you're making a 1% difference in the gym. And then what happens is you don't think that anything's happened. You're like, man, I'm still fat. But then you run into somebody you ain't seen in 6 months. And they're like, bro, Garrett, you lost a lot of weight, dude. You're looking good. And you're like, oh, shit, am I? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we're trying to do just with overall personal excellence, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's really evident in everything you do. And I mean, you guys have heard me say this on here a lot. And I actually heard it from this man first, because he was talking about, man, I'm so tired of people trying to be influencers. Like, I want to create more leaders.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that just absolutely drives me nuts, but it's something that really resonated with me. Like, nobody wants to be fucking influenced.
Yeah.
Like, really?
But if you're a leader, you're going to have influence anyway.
Yeah. But you talk about that, and I mean, I've read your book, and I mean, I think that, like, people that need that too. I mean, like, when you created the G code, I mean, like, how did you really funnel that down and, like, do that to narrow in on all of those things?
Well, that's a good subject. Me being a prolific mistake maker, and even in my current life, I'm not perfect, you know, but I've had these like, my family was really well-to-do when I was young, and I didn't really get to experience this, but like, maybe my earliest memories around 4 or 5 years old, and my grandfather was a banker. On my mother's side, my grandfather was an entrepreneur on my father's side. And I watched them make all this money. One of them owned a glass factory. The other one was a banker. And then the S&Ls crashed in the 80s, around 85, 86, and they went bankrupt. They lost everything. And then in my life later on, you know, I would be adopted by my stepdad, so I had to change my identity. So here I was, this esteemed grandson of a banker and an entrepreneur, and now, like, I'm adopted, the guy that adopted me is adopted, and his dad was adopted, and now I have a kid that's adopted, so none of us knew who the fuck we are, bro. Like, none of us, right? Like, and nobody ever made anything out of the name Stewman, you know, and there's not a lot, if you search online, there's not a lot of people in this world named Stewman. And so, you know, when I'm 15, 16, 17, I drop out of school, I end up going to prison. Then I get out of prison and I got an opportunity to change my life. And I did, and about 3 or 4 years out of prison, I got an opportunity to take a job in the mortgage industry, and I went to prison for selling drugs, and I got an opportunity to change my life. About 3 or 4 years after getting out of prison, I became a millionaire through real estate and mortgages. And then the police thought I was selling drugs because I learned how to hack into the bank server and work from home. I'm the OG work from home guy. So I learned how to type in the IP address into the URL and just log into the bank server just like the bank's computers, and I could work from home and I didn't have to go in there. And when you're the top producer at anything you do, they make special provisions for you, you know? So I own 32 homes. I got people, and you know, they weren't nice homes. They were 30, 40, 50, 80, maybe $90,000 homes around here, which you couldn't find those here nowadays, but you know, 20 years ago you could. And you know, and then I have real estate. So these guys coming to pay me rent at the first of the month, driving old beat up cars and shit. And then I lived in about a $500,000 house, and I got like poor people coming to pay me, you know, rent. And then real estate agents showing up in their BMWs and Mercedes. And then my friends coming over to hang out in the Allen Police Department, the next city over here. They're like, oh, this guy's selling drugs again. So they raid my house one day, and I don't have any drugs in the house, but I had a gun. And I beat the case, and then the feds picked up the case, the ATF, and I went to federal prison. I walked in a millionaire. I walked out divorced with $25 in my name, living in a halfway house. I'm like, fuck, I hadn't lost it again, right? So then I worked my way up again, and get out and go and get a job in finance. And then that was 2008. 2008, I'm making $400,000. 2010, Dodd-Frank takes place, and they're like, if you're a felon, you can't do mortgages anymore. I'm like, fuck, I done got it twice and lost it, right? Then, you know, a couple of years later, I started a business, did good, but ended up getting a divorce, sacrificed for working hard. And I'm like, man, I'm riding this life of these rock bottom lows and then meteoric highs, followed by another rock bottom low and then another meteoric high. I feel like this planet's trying to keep me average. It won't let me be great, and it keeps resetting me to where I have to work myself up from the bottom. And I know a lot of people probably listen to this feel the same way. And I'm like, man, I got to figure out how to fight that motherfucker, right? So I came up with this concept called the force of average. So when you're living below average, the government will give you subsidies, Starbucks will give you free coffee, they'll give you, in California, they'll give you a free place to live, $130,000 down payment on a house, whatever, to try to get you to become an average person, because this planet thrives on average, because the rulers can control us. And you know, you get stuck in your 9-to-5 job, all these things become average, and that's where this planet really tries to keep us. But when you start chasing greatness, man, you get this gravitational force, higher taxes, you know, scrutiny from your friends, you know, stress of running a business or stress of being a top producer. Like the force of average really tries to do everything it can to cut you back down to size. And I'm like, man, I got to figure out how to beat the force of average. Well, in the book Art of War, it says, know your enemy. So we know the enemy is the force of average, because I don't want to be average. You don't want to be average. And it says, know your enemy's most powerful weapon. And I'm like, what the fuck is the weapon that it has? And man, after months and research and reverse engineering my life and everything, I'm like, it distracts us. Every time that I've fallen off is because I was distracted from what mattered. So if I know that the force of average is my enemy and its major weapon is distracting me from my goals, distracting me from greatness, making me think I'm not good enough, then surely God wouldn't have created me, or anybody for that matter, to just be average. If we're created in his image and he's this almighty powerful thing, then clearly I didn't get created to be average. So he wouldn't put me here on this planet against the force of average without a weapon that can beat the force of average that I have. So I'm like, well, what's that weapon? Once again, research, reverse engineering my life. It's focus, right? Most people think focus is like looking at something or whatever the case, but focus is having a target and applying the action no matter what to make that thing you're focused on become a reality. We've all been in the zone and made money. We've all been in the zone and lost weight. We've all been in the zone and been good to our kids, or good, you had it going on because we were in the zone and we were focused on making that thing happen. But what happens for most people is you get in the zone in the gym and then you start to look good and you're like, I don't have to work out as hard anymore because I look the way that I want. You get in the zone in your marriage, you're like, I made her love me. I don't have to work that hard anymore. She's my wife now. You get in the zone at work and you're like, I don't have to work that hard. I made pretty good money last year. And we fight this wave of the force of average of where, so I want to know how to stay in the zone at all time, right? Like, how can I turn it on, be focused on whatever I want in life and make that thing a reality? So I'm like, okay, so what do I need to focus on every day? Right? Because you can't set a year goal, you can't set a month goal, you have to set daily goals, because we, just like being an alcoholic or being any kind of addict, you can't say I'm going to quit for life. You have to say I'm going to quit for today. So we can, because that's how you can stay focused on just one day at a time. So I look at goals, how do I break a year down to one day, and how do I focus on making that thing happen for the day? And I'm like, really, there's 4 things that we need to make happen and focus on every day if we're going to be great. If we're going to chase greatness and fight the force of average, because the opposite of average is greatness, then we need to have a grateful mindset. Because if we're not grateful, like life, the balance in life we're looking for is not getting too grateful to where we get lazy, but not getting ungrateful to where we get apathetic and don't want to work. So, you know, I need to stay focused on the things that I'm grateful for every day. I need to stay focused on my genetics. I need to go to the gym and make sure that I'm eating right. And I need to make sure that I'm exercising these demons and anxieties that are within me so that I'm not stressed out as much as the average person that doesn't do those things. And I need to focus on my grind, my job, how I'm going to make money, how I'm going to make income. And then I need to be focused on the group of people that I spend time with, my family, my friends, my employees, my clients, the people that I spend time. And I'm like, if I can check off those boxes, those 4 boxes every day, I was grateful for these things. I stuck and took care of my genetics. I worked out and went to the gym and kept my diet. I hit my income and target goals that I needed to make on the job today. And I invested my time with the people who matter most to me. If I'll focus on those things every day, then I can 9 times out of 10, more often than not, beat the force of average at its own game, because it's trying to distract me from doing those 4 things. And so we call that the G code.
Yeah. You've used the word focus a lot, and I think there's another component to that I think people struggle with, and you see a lot of today, is the discipline to stay with that focus. So how do you attack discipline and find that motivation, that grind? Is that more like coming into your why, your purpose? I mean, people love to use these keywords and stuff. And
yeah, the buzzwords.
Yeah.
when I was in, I could look back in my life and be like, oh, I'm such a victim of being adopted. I'm such a victim of living in a bad neighborhood that taught me to sell drugs instead of being an entrepreneur. I'm such a victim of divorce. I'm such a victim of the system. But in reality, I look back and I connect those dots, and when God was doing things in my life that I needed to be done in order to learn certain lessons that make me the person I am today. And when I was in prison, I learned how to do time instead of letting time do me. So many people let time do them. Whatever happens, happens. I learned how to do time. Like, I learned routines. Like, I did 3 years of my life in 8 different prisons. And I learned, hey, if the clock strikes this is workout time. The clock strikes this is chow time. The clock strikes this is my reading time. Clock strikes this is my work time. And how to repeat that process in a monotonous, boring, fucking annoying way every day because I'm inside of a prison with a bunch of people I can't stand, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I learned such a discipline on how to do time and how to time block everything and because in prison they have movement time. So like from, 11:50 to 12, you got 10 minutes to go wherever you're going in the prison system. And at 12, all the doors locked and you're stuck wherever you're at for the next hour or two till they open up movement time again. So I had to learn how to be disciplined with my time, or I wasn't going to work out that day. I wasn't going to be able to go to the library and read that day. I wasn't going to eat chow that day, or whatever the case. So you really learn how to do and manage time. And I brought that skill set out here. So while I'm on the job, I know between this time I need to prospect, this time I need to cold call, this time I need to do this time I need to do paperwork. And I managed my life out here the way that I managed it in there. And it's like, oh shit, these are success habits that I learned in there by default, not by design or intention, that have really, taught me to be a disciplined person out here in the real world. And I'm not recommending you go to prison to learn this shit. Clearly, that's not the point of this. But that's where I really get that discipline from was, you have to be in there. If you don't work out, you're going to be taken advantage of. If you don't eat, you're going to starve to death. If you don't read a book, you're going to leave just as dumb as where you came in there, right? And I'm trying to chase these things. And then when I get to the outside world, I'll just apply that same logic to the stuff that I have now, and I still do today. I went to the gym this morning, then went to my kids, because I'm following the G code, then I went to my kids' award ceremony at school, went back home, took a shower, didn't have time between appointments to drive to the office, so I just worked from home all day, because as soon as I start, I'm back to back to back. Every hour on the hour, I'm doing something, and I just have learned how to do time and not let time waste or time slip by. It would have been easy for me this morning to say, oh no, I'm not gonna be able to make the kids' award ceremony. It doesn't fit within the schedule for me to make it to the office. I'm gonna figure it all the fuck out and I'm gonna go do my time. I'm not gonna let time do me or time pass me by.
That's awesome, man. I think that's really good. What do you think maybe was the hardest lesson you learned from prison?
It's funny, when I was a drug dealer, and I thought I was pretty badass because I could carry a gun. My dad always called guns equalizers. You, big guy, small guy, you got a gun, you're all equal at that point, yeah. Right? And then you go in there and you don't got that. You don't have any weapons. And, I showed up my first day, 100. I look like a tee with a golf ball sitting on it, bro. I've been out in the world doing meth and fucking, being a drug dealer. And I'm 19, maybe 20 years old. And I show up in prison and I'm one of the smallest, skinniest white guys. That's all bad, negative shit to have in there. At least it was in the 90s and early 2000s when I was in there. And, I had a really hard time, but I kept integrity for myself. I didn't snitch on anybody. I never had anybody to snitch on. I could have, but I didn't. So actually there was a lot of respect for the fact that, oh, this kid's paperwork's clean. So we were gonna rape you, but now that your paperwork's clean, fuck it, there's other people we'd rather take advantage of, right? And so, I learned the lesson of integrity, but the hardest lesson, I'll never forget this, man. And this is how the force of average works. I get sent to this place in Tennessee Colony and Texas, and maybe a week after going through shaving my head, because they shave your head when you go in there and all this other stuff, they put me out into something called the Hoe Squad. So basically you're a slave and you're gonna go pick cotton and shit like that out there for the Texas Department of Corrections to make their uniforms, right? And I go out there and I'm like, fuck, I got put on the Hoe Squad. It's like the worst job, and you got to wake up at 3 a.m. You got to go out there and you're just shackled together, or maybe you're not shackled together, but you got to work in sync, and you've got these guards on horses with guns pointing them at you. It's a fucking, for a young man, it was like, for an old man now if you went, but it was like fucking huge culture shock. And I had come from a hard-working family, so I'm out there working hard. I'm a competitor. I'm trying to outwork everybody, but these are prisoners. They're not that way. So at the end of the second day, I turn out. At the end of the second day, the lieutenant calls me over when we go in to eat. And he goes, "Hey, come here. What's your name?" "Stewman." "What's your number?" Whatever it was. And he goes, "Tomorrow you're going to turn out at 3 instead of 3:30. Fuck. I'm out here working harder than everybody else. "I got you." Okay, I don't know what any of this means, because prison, they don't communicate very well. So the next morning, I'm up at 3 a.m, and I turn out, and he goes, "Hey man, you ever drove a tractor before?" "Never drove a tractor in my life." I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I drove a tractor. Why?" He goes, "Now you drive the tractor, you don't have to work the hoe." I'm like, "Oh shit, man, I worked hard for 2 days, and now I'm driving the tractor with all the inmates in it." I'm thinking, what a fucking awesome job, right? They beat the living shit out of me after that third day of work, because they're like, "Motherfucker, I got a life sentence. I've been trying to drive the tractor for fucking 10 years that I've been here. You show up for 3 days and either sucked the lieutenant's dick or snitched on somebody." And I'm like, oh shit, bro. And again, I'm 120, 130 pounds. These are fucking giant humans, like, not fucking good, you know what I mean? Yeah. They ended up transferring me off of that unit because I got my ass kicked so much. And then the next place I went to, I'm in medium security, because now I got a shot for getting in a fucking fight, which is like your paperwork written up. And I'm like, damn, man. And that was a hard lesson for me, was like, oh, in here, you're going to be average. But at the time, I didn't have this force of average concept or anything else. But that was one of those, hey, shit, I'm driving the tractor. This is fucking awesome. I don't have to go be a slave anymore, in the same sense of the rest of these guys, to, oh, no, we're beating your ass and getting you sent the fuck out of here. And now I got to go. And in movies, you see the guy walk on the run, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to fuck you. I'm going to beat you up, blah, blah." I had to do that shit 8 times, bro. 8 fucking times. So when I left there, I'm like, I made a pact with myself. Because I watched guys in prison that were rapists, murderers, drug dealers, and they're like, "I'm going to church, I'm praying to God, I'm going to get parole out of here." I'm like, I don't think that's going to work. So I was kind of turned off to religion. Yeah. And I made a deal with myself, not God. Now it's a deal I have with God. It's like, I'm never going to do anything in the dark that I won't do in the light. I'm not going to do something behind closed doors that I won't do in the public. And that's been a big attack against me since I've become this public persona. People are like, "Oh, he's not who you think he is." They know that shit hurts my feelings. "Oh, he's this fake person." And it's not true, man. I'm the most transparent person that I've ever met. Probably I'm an oversharer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
But I left that prison, the first prison, with no Nazi signs, no gang affiliations. I did shit the fucking hard way, bro. It was not fucking easy. Guys, they went to the places that I went to, left, that white guys especially, left with some shit and scars on them for life. I got a few scars on me for life, like my hand, I got in a fight and I broke my wrist so bad because I hit the dude ducked like this, and I was already committed, and I hit the cinder block wall and it crushed every bone in my wrist. I have a 6-inch rod in my hand where my wrist doesn't move. You know what I mean? So I have scars for life, but I don't have weird tattoos or anything like that, And I just made this pact with God that, hey, man, I'm not going to do anything behind closed doors that I wouldn't do in Times Square in front of a preacher or whatever the case. And I've kept that pact for all this time. Doesn't mean I've always made the right decision. Sometimes I think, yeah, this is the right move, and I'm like doing it in front of everybody, and everybody's like, "That's a fucking terrible move, son." You know what I mean? Yeah. But the intention is there to not have any dirt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I said, that's what the haters, or the few haters that I have or whatever, they're always trying to act like they have dirt on me because they know that's a big thing I sell about myself. But nobody ever produces receipts because I've kept that pure since 2001. I was let out a month after 9/11. So I've kept that promise to myself and to God all these years later. Doesn't always mean I've made the right decision or been perfect. Yeah. But again, I'm not doing it. If you ask me, I'm going to give you the answer. The real answer.
And I mean, I've personally watched you own a lot. Whether it was something you truly fucked up, or something you just made a bad decision, or, a different scenario where you're like, "Hey, I tried to do this and this didn't work." Yeah. And here's what actually happened, but you know, it's like anything. If you're the sales guy that all of a sudden starts making too much money, or you finally reach your goals and you're making really good money, well, the guys below you, they're going to be trying to talk shit, or they're going to try to knock you off your pedestal.
Of course.
One way or another.
Crabs in a bucket.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything in life. So, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. Like, most people, they want the quick, easy answer to figure out how to do something, and they think that it doesn't take discipline and hard work.
Yep.
And they forget real quickly how much it took for you to get there. But that's the first thing they're going to attack, part of the law of average, trying to bring you back down. But that's the first thing that people are going to attack. And, and that's only if you don't give them anything.
Yep.
So,
well, think about this. If you stand for something, that's going to be the first thing people use against you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you say, hey, I stand for truth and honesty, people are going to say he's a fucking liar.
Yeah.
If you say, I stand for good marriages, they're going to say he cheats on his wife. That's just what people figure out what you care about, and they try to use that against you. You said the sales scenario. If you stand for, if you're the top producer and you're outworking everybody else, they're going to say, oh, he gets they give him the good leads. I've heard that at every job I've ever had. He gets spoon-fed. I get the shittiest leads, but I'm a good salesperson. Why would the boss give me the best leads when he knows that I can convert the bad leads? I'm actually getting the worst fucking leads out of all these guys, but they're like, the boss is spoon-feeding him fucking deals. You know what I mean? I've heard that my whole entire sales career, everywhere I've ever worked. Oh, they always give him the good deals. Bro, I get the terrible deals because I'm the best salesperson and I can convert shit that y'all would never convert. Y'all get the laydown deals because your sales skills suck and they need you to make a paycheck.
Yeah. What do you think about delegating? Oh, I know this is a good subject for you because I think this is one of those that you've experienced recently. You even mentioned a book that I'm reading. I think I even got the book referral from being at one of your live deals last year.
Martell?
Yeah. So I think that was something that everybody, when you get to a certain point, you try to maximize things and you try to delegate, which I know you've done several different times.
And failed.
And what lessons have you learned from that, and what are you doing differently with delegating now?
So we all hear this work on your business, not in your business shit, right? Or the 4-hour work week and be an owner, not a worker. And there's some things that I think need to be put out in the open for people to really consider when it comes to that. I made the mistake of trying to delegate everything, and then things aren't run the same way that I would run them. If I delegate you as the COO of a company, you're not going to run it the way you got maybe 6 months on the job. I got 14 years on the job. There's no way you have the experience, knowledge, and care that I have because it's my company, right? And so, I tried over a 2-year period of time from the end of 2022 until right now. I tried to let other people run my company, and step back away from it and delegate all this stuff. And, it might work in a traditional business. It doesn't work really well in my business because it's kind of centered around me, unfortunately. But what I realized is I try to delegate everything, including the things that I like doing. And that's where I fucked up. It's I like writing. I like coaching people. I like talking to people. I like speaking on stage. I like doing podcasts. And I stopped doing those things and started delegating them to other people. And then I'm not feeling fulfilled. And so I've got this high paying job and it's all great and everything else, but I'm fucking depressed for about 2 years. If I'm just being real, I hate using that word because I'm not a depressed person, but it was really equivalent to the way I felt in prison, to be honest with you. I'm out here in the free world and I feel worse personally than I felt in prison. And then about a month ago, I just realized maybe 2 months ago, I delegated all the shit that I love, so I don't have anything to fulfill me or that I love. I'm doing that. Let me give you, I delegated some coaches in Apex. I delegated sales guys in Apex. I delegated my operations team in Apex, which are things that I enjoy doing. I delegated the guy to write emails for me in my business, which are things that I enjoy doing. And guess what I ended up fucking having to do, bro? meeting with accountants and attorneys and the shit that I do not want to fucking do. So I'm having meetings with people I can't stand, CPAs, attorneys, things like that, the other shit, the other side of business, right? Private equity guys, all this other shit. I fucking hate that stuff. That's not, the numbers world is not I'm good at it, but I do not like doing it. I like the content. I like the people. I like making sales. And I'm like, now I've delegated all the shit I love, and now I'm doing the shit that I hate. And I fucking hate my life. I hate my fucking job. I hate the way that, and I'm going through that spiral. And I look up one day and I'm like, why didn't I delegate that shit? The clients want me, the people want me, and then I took me away from them, and then now I'm doing the jobs that do not require me, that I fucking hate, the CFO type of jobs, and fuck, how do I get out of this? So I had to like reverse back and say, okay, I had to go hire a CFO. I had to go hire people to do that shit for me, which anybody can do the finance side. I'm a finance guy, and I needed to learn all that stuff, so there's always a positive to it. But I look up and I'm like, I'm not fulfilled. I delegated the wrong shit out. I would recommend, if you're thinking about delegating the things in your business, at least write down what you love about your business and never let anybody else fucking do that. At least do the shit that you love. Because then you're going to feel unfulfilled, and there's always going to be work to be done. I didn't delegate my whole business and be like, I'm on a beach somewhere. I delegated my business like, now I'm in fucking hell because now I got to do the shit that I don't like doing.
And it's funny, you sit back and you kind of look at those things, and this can apply to a lot of different things, but you look back and you're like, man, I really did enjoy that, or I really hated that. And then you find out the little vices and tics that you had to not have to deal with certain things, or maybe the exceptions you made. And you know, I've always loved that about you. And like you said, you definitely put it all, absolutely all of it out there.
How could people learn from me if they don't learn from my mistakes too?
Right, but I mean, and you know, that's one of the things I love about Jason Redman's book. Even before I even met Jason and we became friends, you know, he owned how much he fucked up.
Yeah.
If he hadn't have done that in that book, man, nobody in the ops community would have like respected him.
What's the name of that book? The first book he wrote?
No Easy Day.
No, there's one before that where he's talking about something about being in the I got to look that up, man, because I read his first book, man, and it's such a good book because he's talking about being in a certain.
And you're gonna Google it faster than I can find it.
Yeah. He's got a few of them.
Yeah, he's got 3.
It's like Off the Mark or something like that.
Get Off Your Ex.
Get Off the X. Yes.
Get Off the X. Yeah.
And that's where he's owning that. She's like, I got off the fucking X, and that's how I got in this thing. You know what I mean? And that X is the focus, the zone, the thing that we're talking about. That's what makes you the powerful person. So.
Yeah, and I think these things all tie together too, because you also, man, and I see so much of your stuff. Like, I've liked enough of your stuff that I am going through the Build Your Machine stuff. I've been very bad about staying with that and going through it because I really wanted to learn select things. But I got to the point where you're talking about the syndicates and everything else, and I don't want to talk too much and give away your stuff because, you know, that's your business. But there's a certain point where I'm obviously hitting your algorithm. I've liked enough stuff that Ryan Stewman pops into my feed real fucking fast every day. You know, like now I'm starting to understand those things, and I'm like, okay, like it's clicking now, like I get it, like that's what's happening. But you know, you also made a big change where you talked about, all right, so I got real successful. I'm speaking on all the stages I wanted to speak on. I'm networking with all the people that I put down as like my top 10, my top 25 people. Like, I'm doing business with these people. I've got the wife, I've got the family, I've got the cars, I've got the house. I'm doing all these things. And then you were kind of like, damn, it ain't about all that. And I've started watching you in the last, and I mean, I've only been following you for 2-3 years, but in that time period, I've watched you where at first you were getting a lot of those things, and now you're getting rid of most of those things. And you've talked a lot about fulfillment and like what it is. And I think What was that light bulb, man? Like, where did that click? And like, what was that for you that like you stopped chasing the shiny things and you started finding fulfillment in other things? Because I think that ties into what you were just talking about, not just on the business side, but the personal side too.
Well, you know, I got to a point earlier this year, that I looked at my life and I'm like, fuck, man, I'm 44 years old and I've checked everything off my bucket list. I've spoke on all the stages I've wanted to speak on. I've met all the celebrities. I've smoked weed with all the rappers that I've ever wanted. I've been to all the mansions that I could possibly imagine. And I've hit crazy numbers that I never expected to hit, and driven the cars, flown in the jets, like been to the fucking vacations, like got the wife, got the kids, got the house, like fuck.
Yeah.
I tell my guys all the time, my clients and my employees, they're like, dude, you know, I made $500,000, $1 million this year, and especially the guys in their 20s, and they're like, you know, I'm gonna go buy a Lamborghini. I'm like, buying a Lamborghini in your 20s is like losing your virginity to a supermodel. It's peak. It's like, save that for down the road. You're peaking way too early, you know, because after that, there's nothing left. There's no hotter chick than a supermodel. There's no better car than a Lamborghini. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so you got to have some restraint. And so I was 38 years old before I bought a nice car. I was 38 years old before I bought this actual watch. Was my very first watch. I was 38 years old. And 38 years old. And this was actually, I'm wearing it today. It was the first nice watch that I ever bought. And, you know, I waited till I've been a millionaire since 2005. On and off a few times, but my first million was 2005, and you know, it was probably 2017 before, you know, maybe 2018 before I bought a Rolex. You know what I mean? Like, I just showed some restraint there. And now I look up just a short period of time later, it's like, fuck, I've had all this stuff. And, you know, I tell you the truth, you know, after a while, this is just a watch. You know, after a while, it's just a car. After a while, you know, and I would hear guys say stuff like that. They'd be like, dude, you know, I had a Lamborghini once. And I'd think, oh, you're a used to motherfucker. You used to have some shit. And they're like, dude, I'm 10 times richer now that I don't have a Lamborghini than when I first bought one, because I was trying to prove to people that I was rich. But now I'm rich, and I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever, dude. You wish you had that car. But now I'm getting older, and I've had 19 Lamborghinis and shit. And I'm like, fuck, I don't care. I have a McLaren sitting in my garage right now. I drive maybe once a month if I remember to drive it. You know what I mean? And it's not that it's a bad car or I'm above that. It's just, you know, you mentioned JSX. I have a lease on a jet, and I fly JSX everywhere. Everywhere I need to go, JSX goes there. I don't give a fuck about the jet that I pay money for every single month. You know, I've flown it 3 times this year. You know what I mean? And it's leased out to, you know, dry lease to other people and shit like that. But I've flown it 3 times this year. I'm in JSX all the time. You know what I mean? Like, tomorrow I got to go to Austin. It's a 30-minute flight. And I'm like, just fucking hop on Southwest. I don't care. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, those things they stop mattering because I'm not flexing that shit for the gram. Because what happened is I started a lot of trends online. I was the first person to teach social media marketing on Facebook and shit like that. 2008, 9, 10, nobody was doing that. Gary Vaynerchuk didn't exist. They existed, but they weren't who we know them are today, right? And they were way better funded than me, so they passed me up in the social media game. But I was the first guy teaching this shit. Nobody else was teaching it. I was the first guy to start I remember Cardone once told me, you can't just have tattoos and a black t-shirt and people take you serious as a sales trainer. I was like, watch me. One day you'll copy me because I'll never copy you. And now look, you know, I remember a lot of, you know, when I had a penthouse in 2014 and I was doing events there, nobody was flexing their penthouse on social media. That wasn't a thing. Maybe Dan Bilzerian or something like that, but that wasn't a thing in the business world. Then when I started getting these cars in 2016, 2017, 2018, there wasn't every other ad, a Lamborghini guy or a private jet guy. I've been doing all that shit for a long fucking time now. And that doesn't mean people weren't doing that or driving those cars. It just wasn't the thing online, right? And so, you know, I look up and I'm like, well, I've done all that shit. So what really matters? Number one, am I a good dad? Am I a good husband? Am I a good example to people that are out there? Because I know plenty of people that are well-to-do that don't have all that flashy stuff that are really great examples of humans. You know what I mean? Number two, you know, did that stuff fulfill me? Nah, I probably filled my ego a little bit, but it didn't fulfill me. I never sat in a nice car or a Lamborghini or a private jet and been like, man, this got me closer to God. This made me a better husband. This made me a better person. Oftentimes it does the opposite. This made me a douchebag. This made me think I'm better than some of these people that can't afford them. And then, you know, I really started thinking, what's going to be if I've checked all these things off my bucket list, and okay, number one, I need to quit smoking weed. So I got 10, 11 months now at this point with no weed. And that was a big problem for me. Then I started getting a clearer head, and I'm like, what's going to fulfill me? If I've checked everything off the bucket list, I'm no longer motivated to do those things. I got to find fulfillment from something. Like being a dad and a husband, that's a given. Running a business, making money, that's a given. But how can I help other people have life experiences that they never thought that they would have? How can I pour into people and teach them the mindset to overcome the magnitude of shit that I've been through? How can I help people right now, man? In 2022, everybody was making money. Right now, fucking people are struggling. Most people won't admit it publicly, but almost everybody's struggling. How can I help those people get through the struggle so that when times are good again, they're gonna be light years ahead of everybody else who quit? How can I see other people win and that be a fulfillment to me? And I just had that shift to where it isn't about me and what I got and how rich I am and how blah, blah, blah. What if I can make it about others? And what if I can get fulfillment from seeing Garrett win? Or what if I can get fulfillment from seeing John Smith win? Or what if I can get fulfillment from seeing, James Smith win? Or whatever those people's names are. Like, how can I really focus on that? And man, and when I say this is all fresh, because I've been kind of lost for 2 years. And this is all shit that I'm just starting to figure out, honestly, in the last couple of months. And I feel like I have this newfound energy for life, because it's like, oh, it's about them. It's like in the airplane, put your mask on first. I've already had mine on. Now I get to put theirs on. And it's been a fucking game changer for my mindset, my mental heallt, everything.
I'm so happy to hear you say that. Like, this is just me. This is the way I am, and just being completely honest. Like, I felt like I got in Apex at the wrong fucking time. You know what I mean? Like,
it attracts
when
the wrong
I
people
first
too.
started watching you, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I need a little more of. That right there, and like, yeah, I want to learn these things. Like, I don't know shit about sales funnels, and like, I'm trying to figure out how to make this podcast work and how to grow this and stuff. And I'm like, that dude's doing it. Like, I want to do that. But then like, the people that I got pushed off on, I wasn't impressed with. And I'm like, this punk ass kid isn't gonna teach me shit. Like, I'm not gonna. And to watch you go through that, and like now seeing you be all in and back in the game the way you are, man, like, I'm super happy for you. Like, I think that's gonna like do tremendous things for you personally. But I also sit there and look at it, and it reminds me, like, you and I were talking earlier before the show. I went to BK Live last weekend, and one of the big things that really clicked for me too is like, watching so many people, and like, I can be guilty of this at times too, because like I told you earlier, like, I've had Build Your Machine for, I don't know, when did I buy that? February, and I'm through like week 5 on it, but I'm really kind of stuck in those and trying to really learn and figure that out, like, and apply it to all of my different businesses. So it kind of takes me a while to like process through that. And yet I'm not sure sometimes where to go with this one or that one. I got this one figured out, but not this one. So it's like back and forth. Well, you could go listen to all these things. Like, you guys could watch my podcast 1,000,000 fucking times. I could have the greatest person on here. I got Ryan Stewman just dropping bombs on you guys. But so many people don't take action. Like, you could tell them, like, they'll take all the notes in the world and make all these big plans, but they never take action. How are you trying to tackle that? Because I know for a fact, just the other night, I was like, oh shit, Ryan's gonna be on a show tomorrow, and I was like, and I was already on your page, and I almost forgot, but then I saw the thing, is like, oh shit, Ryan's doing a Zoom in like 30 minutes, like, all right, cool, get on here, like, let's see what you're teaching everybody tonight. What are you doing? And out of all the people, and I mean, like, what do you have, like 2,500 people in Apex?
Somewhere around there.
And what, 80 people live?
Yeah, less than 100.
Less than 1%, 1%. Yep. I mean, like, and people they either don't show up or they don't take action.
And they paid for it.
They
fucking, and they know it's not recorded, because that's the incentive.
Yeah.
You get the jewels by showing up live. A couple of things to those watching. The fact that most people don't take action is a great thing, because if you become an action taker, you'll run laps around everybody else. So you can't pray for everybody to become an action taker, because then your competition gets in the fucking way.
Oh.
Okay. Number 2, you know, you can only say so much. I think one of my gifts that God gave me is I can take very complicated shit and make it very simple. And if I make it very, because see, complexity leads to confusion, it leads to excuses. You can say, oh, that's, you know, Garrett's got this big construction business and they got to figure out measurements and estimates and blah, blah, blah. I could never do that. And so they got an excuse not to win, versus you're like, no, we just order lumber packages and do these rehabs. If you could break that down to, I'm not in your business, obviously, but if you can break that down to simplicity, then they have no excuse not to do it, because you understand, yes. You understand, yes. Okay, so you can go do it. Oh, no, I'm just lazy. Then they got to admit the truth.
Absolutely.
Right? And so that's what I try to do. I break things down to, you don't need a complicated funnel. You don't need this crazy back-end artificial intelligence, SpaceX rocket engineered follow-up process. You get a lead, call them, close them, call them, make an offer, close them, don't close them, follow up with them. It's really that simple. So how do we get leads? How do we talk to them? How's the conversation go? And how do we follow up with them? I have a guy the other day, and he says, this guy pays me a lot of money. And he says, this month I got 62 leads. He's in a high ticket business. He said, I got 62 leads, 20 of them we booked appointments with, and 19 of them we pitched our product to, and 11 of them closed. We got to get better at sales. I said, motherfucker, you got a 55% closing ratio. That's fucking crazy. You're badass at sales. What happened to the other 40 people that didn't show up to the phone call? He goes, man, you know, we called them. We couldn't get a hold of them. We don't know what to do. So here's what you do, man. Because if you can get just if you got a 55% closing ratio, if you can get a 50% higher show up ratio and keep the same sales ratio, you double your fucking money. I said, because then you've got 38 people showing up, 36 pitches, and 16 people, or whatever that number is, 14 people showing up to close, you've doubled your money. And he goes, oh, well, what do we do? I get on my phone and he sells drug rehab shit. I got on my phone and I made him a meme of Leonardo DiCaprio snorting coke off that hooker's back. And I wrote on it, hey, is this why you're not picking up my phone call? I can help you with that. And I said, send that out to your people. Fucking simple solution. Calls me back the next day. He goes, dude, we found all 40 of them. But he could have also went, oh man, that'll never work, blah, blah, blah. That's too stupid, blah, blah. I'm like, he didn't say any of that. He went and took action.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that the action taker, so many people try to complicate shit. He's telling me we got to get better at sales. We need this follow-up system. Bro, send him a meme. Now the dude's going to double his income without having to go buy more leads, without having to sharpen his skill set anymore as a sales pro, just using the same 62 leads that come in or 64 leads that come in next month. And it'll just have higher ratios. And then once he masters that, he can dump more money to advertising, delegating, things of that nature. But that's what most people do. They find, you know, they try to complicate things or think that they focus on the wrong shit. And my gift's really to show people, hey man, it's just these little small tweaks. And if you'll go take action here, but he could have also said, you know, man, I don't know how to make a meme. Cool, I'll make it for you. You know, oh man, I don't feel comfortable sending this out. Have your sales guy send it. Like, I'm gonna handle every objection that he got until even though he didn't give me any, until he goes and takes action, right? And I'm trying to do that for these other people too, because most people are scared of shit that never happens. We have this thing, amygdala in our brain. It's the fight or flight mechanism of our brain, and we overthink things. We think, what if they do this? What if they do this? What if they don't? How many times have you thought that it was the end of the world? She's going to leave you. The police are coming. Everybody's going to hate you. I remember a couple of years ago, this internet page was talking all bad about me. And I'm like, shit, this is going to end my career. One bad comment. All these people talking all this shit.
1-star Google review.
One fucking negative thing happened to me out of all this big ordeal. And in my mind, I'm like, fuck, this could be the end of me. This could ruin my reputation. Blah. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. We always make things complicated and bigger and scarier than they are in real life. How many people have you seen go to Tony Robbins' fire walk and they're like, dude, I was scared that I was going to burn my feet, but they're fine. How many times have people jumped out of an airplane? I was scared for my life, but the parachute opened and I was fine. How many times have people been lost in the woods and they're like, turns out I'm fine. You know what I mean? So most of the time, it's not as scary as we think it is. We just got to go do that shit. But guess what? Even if it is scary, Mike Tyson once said this. I was with Mike Tyson at an event and we were talking, and he said this on camera a few times, but I'd ask him a question. I said, Mike, man, when you got in the ring, man, you had to feel like the fucking man. You're just going to crush these people. And he said, no, bro. We were speaking. It's not like Mike's my friend. We were speaking at the same event, so we're back in the green room. He goes, no, man, I was scared to fucking death of every man I ever got in the ring with, but I went in there anyway. And he goes, you can't have courage. You can't be a badass without facing fear. If I wasn't scared of them, how big of a pussy would I have been to go in there and bully them? I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
You know, but that's how most people live their life. They're like, oh, that's scary. I'm not going to do it. But how do you get to call yourself a badass? How do you get to, if it's scary and you don't do it, you're a coward. If it's scary and you do it, you're brave. There's no bravery without being scared. If you're not scared, then you can't be brave.
Yeah, you know, I went and did Jason Redman's Eagle Rise Summit to get over a fear of speaking in public because I didn't think I had that. And then I bombed at an industry event. So I went and did it.
But you're still alive.
Yeah, right.
And
exactly.
probably nobody cared.
And nobody probably cares.
Yeah.
But you know, like, we were getting ready to do a thing, and I'll never forget this. Jill Bunny told us, she's like, there was 12 of us. Some of these seasoned speakers, some of them trying to move up, you know, different levels for everybody. But like, she was like, what are you feeling right now? And almost everybody said nervous. She's like, you're not nervous, you're excited. Tell your brain you're excited.
Yeah.
It's the same feeling as Olympic athletes. That's what they tell them. Like, yeah, everybody has that shit. Like, even at BK Live this weekend, I was talking about, they're like, don't be fooled. Every one of us still got those butterflies and stuff. The difference is we're going to get past that.
Just do it anyway.
You need 20 seconds. After 20 seconds, all that goes away. And it's so true. Once you're up there and you actually get into it, it really doesn't. Like, but what do you think?
Imagine this. Like, my kids plays football.
Yeah.
Like, never in the history that I've ever seen has the team walked out and went, fuck, those guys are way bigger than us, we quit. No, they go face their fear. They go and they're like, dude, we're 7th graders. These guys have an 8th grade team. They're way bigger than us. Coach, we're out. No, they go face their fear. And guess what? They don't get injured, and sometimes they even win.
Yeah.
You know? But as adults, we're like, oh, what if Garrett thinks I'm not good on his podcast? It's like, cool, what if these people think I'm no good on the podcast? Cool, tell me, I can get better.
Yeah. Love the feedback.
When the 8th grader beats the shit out of the 7th grader, my son who's in 7th grade, he's like, Dad, I got to work harder. Those guys hit hard.
Yeah.
You know? That's
how have you done that with them, though? Because your kids are amazing, man. Like, I've watched your kids walk around, pick up trash, clean up after grown-ass men, women, doing all these things. But our generation in general raised a lot of people that are afraid to fail.
Yeah.
They won't even try because they're so scared of failing. So how have you tried to tackle that with your own kids?
Just like
Other than leading by example.
Just like I do with clients, 100% transparency. I remember my kids were 5 and 6 years old, and I was showing my wife the Force of Average video. This is about 7, 8 years ago. Showing my wife the Force of Average video. The Force of Average video, you can go to forceofaverage.com. It's free. I don't got nothing to sell you. Just watch the video. And it talks about me going to prison and stuff. And my kids were like, my boys, my 2 older boys, the 2 younger ones didn't exist yet. And they're like, Dad, you went to prison? And I had a choice right then and there. My wife goes, honey, you don't, just tell them no. And we'll deal with it later. But I had a choice right then and there. Am I going to lie to my kids and potentially lose their trust for the future when they find out Dad's a liar, like I found out my parents were?
Fucking everything.
Or I get to be transparent with them. And I said, yeah, I've never lied to my kids. I'm always straight shooter. I got teenagers now, and I'm hoping that through those teenage years, me always being honest with them, when I'm honest with them now, they won't go, but you do it and you lied to us about it, or there won't be as much rebellion. There's going to be rebellion because the way human beings are created is about the time we turn 15. In our caveman days, that was time for the son the kids to leave and go mate with other people, so they needed to leave the family because our life expectancy was a lot less. And so that's still deeply ingrained in our DNA. So that's why teenagers are so rebellious. Then when they go have kids, they come back in their 20s, they're like, Dad was right. You know what I mean? That's how most parents experience that. I'm like, how can I keep them from being overly rebellious during those teenage years? And that's still to be determined because I haven't done it yet, right? I'm not through the teenage years.
Yeah.
But then my kid's next question was, what'd you go for? Fuck, that's a hard one. Because now my kids, I got to say drugs. And now my kids are going to be like, what are drugs? And now we're going down this rabbit hole, and my wife is over there just private school educated, well family. I mean, she's the complete opposite of me, and she's like, "Mrr." And I'm like, well, drugs, they'll fuck you up, first of all. And I've never heard anybody tell a good story about the way that their life turned out better on them. And they're these substances that are illegal and against the law, and I got caught up with them. You guys hopefully never do that because you can learn from my mistake. Now, my kids, you offer them, if you were to offer them drugs, they're like, no, man, fuck my dad, he already been through that shit. I know all about that. It wasn't a just say no, and then you find out your mom's doing blow in the bathroom, or they tell you don't ever drink, and they're drinking with their friends, or don't smoke weed, and they're smoking weed with their friends.
Yeah.
My kids have seen me smoke pot their entire life and quit, and they're like, dude, I watched my dad quit, and that was fucking hell. I'm not going through that. You know what I mean? My kids have watched me suffer. It's like, I watched my dad do that. I'm not going through that shit. And so that's the plan. It's still up to them, obviously, but that's the plan. And so I just have been completely honest with my kids and never tried to hide stuff or anything else. You know, I'm going, this funny story. About 3-4 months ago, we're having an event at Apex, and which is my office, and we're having these comedians come in and entertain everybody. So there's hundreds of people at the office, and we have an auditorium for 300 people. So there's hundreds of people at the office. I've paid professional comedians to come in and tell jokes, and paid for alcohol for everybody. And I'm walking up the stairs to my office. The auditorium's downstairs. I'm walking up the stairs to my office, and he was 12 at the time. My 12-year-old son's with me. And, you know, I go into the green room, and I'm going to go grab a bottle of Don Julio to go downstairs and party with everybody. But my kids are there. They're used to being around adults. They're well behaved. It's never an issue. Plus, there's TVs all in my office. They'll just go watch TV in the green room or whatever. And my son Jackson goes, Dad, what's a blowjob? Fuck! Not tonight. Not tonight. There's comedians. I paid tens of thousands of dollars for this event. And I said, oh, shit, I'm going to need some of this Don Julio. And I took a drink, and I go, well, it's when a woman, I explained it. And he goes, well, what about jerking off? The dude just starts asking a million questions. Like, well, now I'm up there for like an hour and a half just explaining the whole thing. He's got a million questions, explaining the whole thing, and I'm going, don't tell your brother yet. Wait till he asks me. You know what I mean? Like, let me explain this to you guys one at a time. Don't tell him yet. But that's when a kid really loses their innocence, is they find, oh, shit, you do that to mom? That's how I'm here? You know what I mean? And so I go downstairs like an hour and a half later, and the whole event's over. Because it was just like a brief 2-hour networking thing. And Amy's like, where the hell have you been? And I was like, don't ask. Jax asked me what a blowjob was going upstairs, and I've had to spend my time explaining a million questions. She goes, oh, honey, let me go get you a drink. And I was like, I've been drinking. I'm good. I got it all figured out. Next day, Jackson comes up to me, and he goes, I'm gonna be quiet about that, but I appreciate how you're always just real with me, Dad, I don't think my mom would have answered it that way. I know Amy wouldn't have answered it that way because Jackson's from a previous marriage. He goes, I'll take one. No. And he's like, I'm grateful for you because you're always real with me, Dad. And I need that, And I'm like, dude, don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm being real with you so that you don't, and I talk to my kids, he's 13 at this point. So I'm like, I talk to my kids like it's real. Say, hey, don't fuck it up, man. Just trust me, because I'm never going to let you down, son. I'm always going to shoot straight. And anything you ask me, I'm always going to give you 100% truth, even though it might be really uncomfortable for me and something I don't want to talk about, like tonight, or like last night. But I'm always going to be real with you,
The one thing I want to say as a father, I wasn't going to talk today, but he's just
Return of the Mac.
But the one thing is that he learned from you and not the world, not the street, not the outside influence. He took it from the person that he respects and he looks up to for the truth. And it wasn't the version of what the world would give, because, I have a 10-year-old and now he's now 16. And it's crazy what kids are now numb to.
Yeah.
I always make the examples. One of my shows, I used to love Gotham. It was a show about Batman. But remember when we were younger, And you didn't even see a gun on television until after 9 o'clock, till after kids were supposed to be in bed. I turn on Gotham at 7 o'clock and somebody's head is getting cut off. And they're not even, my 10-year-old see a titty, it's not even a bit. He do that, ooh.
Yeah, starts to see titties during like primetime
Remember
TV.
When Simpson was the first one to like break out and like
he had to have unscrambled Cinemax to see that shit when we were kids. You know?
Yeah, but now like they're so desensitized from it, and now for you to be able to explain to them though the our ethical side of that nature of things, to be able to do that means a lot, because then when the world approaches them to it, they know the correct way to accept that information or how to look and digest it or not digest it. That's a big deal, man. So like, it's been hard to sit over here and be quiet, like listening to. I'm like, where's Apex? Where can I sign up? And where's the book? Like, I've been on literally, is it on Amazon? I've been looking for the book and everything since I've been sitting in the corner quiet producing, because it's like, mine.
It's funny, his book's like $3, $4 on there.
I'm about to ready to say, you got one in the car? Can I cash up? Like just listening to the whole take action thing, and that's something Garrett's been in my ass about a few things for a couple years now. With everything, and life throws curves at you that actually push you. Prison was yours. That push you into a thing. I've had something that just happened to me that kind of pushed me into mine, and it's like, what's the worst that can happen if you take action?
Yeah.
And I heard that, and I was just like, wow.
I think that now. I'm like, we can be going through a financial struggle, or, we can be going through a marital struggle. And I'm like, I don't ever think it's the end of the world. It's like, bro, I've been in prison. This out here, I got unlimited resources to solve my problems. Even if I don't have money at the time, like, I don't got no resources in there, and I had to learn how to solve problems. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. I mean, you always find a way. I mean, and that's the people I want to surround myself with. I mean, like, I don't understand where people get so afraid of things and putting themselves out there. Like, it's that 7th grade mentality of like standing on the wall at the dance, man. You're just so afraid and won't get out there and put yourself out there. I mean, what's the worst thing that happened to you? I mean, people told me I was crazy when I started this podcast. They're like, oh, you're just wasting a bunch of money. This is never going to go anywhere. So why are you doing that? I'm like, so what, man? I did it.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to put myself out there. I wanted to network. I wouldn't trade. I've told my wife this many times. I wouldn't trade the last 3 years. We're going to the last 2 years of doing this show for really anything related to that. Because even though it hasn't made any money, technically,
it's made you knowledge, bro.
It's made me knowledge, the networking, the relationships I've built. I mean, people still follow that, and people still listen to that stuff. And I mean, how do you deal with this? Because like, I imagine you were a lot like me early on. And this is funny, like the mutual friend we talked about back earlier. I used to get harassed so bad because I was always reading, Napoleon Hill, Tony Robbins, whomever. And they were just clowning me constantly, like, oh, he's going to do another self-help thing. Oh, he's doing this, But it was like, no, I want to learn more, man. Like, those people were truly great. Like, what were their secrets? What were their tricks? Like, how do they do this? Like, I know I suck at X right now, but I don't want to keep sucking at that. Like, how do I make myself better? And it was really interesting. I think it was last week. I think Luciano said this. Correct me if I'm wrong, Biz, but he was like, your weaknesses become your superpowers. He's like, think about that. If you actually pursue what you perceive as your weakness, more likely it becomes your superpower, because when you conquer that and like own that, then you start finding your superpowers.
Well, it's funny you say that. There was a time in my life around 2004 or 5, and I had 2 or 3 roommates. I had just gone through a divorce, and I had 2 or 3 of my homies living with me.
Yeah.
And my homies, they're out chasing tail, doing drugs, drinking every night. And
Did we live in the same house?
Yeah, maybe you were one of those guys. Yeah, and I'm not saying that I wasn't doing that, but I might do it once a month.
Right.
And they were doing it 10 times a week. You know what I mean? And they even would bring ladies back to the house at the end of the night from bar, and then they would make fun of me as the nerd. They would be like, you know, this our boy Stewman, you know, I don't know why the fuck he never leaves the house. He's got some notebook he's always writing shit in. He's got some CDs he's always listening to. Don't pay attention to him, right? And it was like, hey, and you know, I'm trying to get laid sometimes, so you ain't gotta do me like that, you know? Yeah. But I had this idea that I could just, I was like, if I could just figure this shit out, I can nail it. And about 6 months of them partying and hanging out, man, all of a sudden I started getting big ass checks at work because I was learning the real estate game. And all of a sudden I started getting big ass checks at work. We're talking, you know, sometimes 80, 100 grand in a check. And they're like, hey man, you know, what the fuck you getting all this? Because we all work the same job. And they're like, what the fuck you make all this money from? Like, while you guys were doing drugs and chasing pussy, I was like chasing knowledge and trying to figure this shit out because I used the prison discipline that I had to use my time in the nighttime. And so, you know, that year I go on to make, you know, like I said, $700,000, I think we were talking about it earlier. And these guys were like, oh, dude, hey, man, put us down with that stuff. It's like, I try to put you down from day one, but here's the CDs. They still never listen to them.
Yeah.
All of them. One of them's dead. The other 3 are still poor as shit. Like, I showed you what was possible. I'm the dumbest one out of all of you because 3 of you had fucking college education. I dedicated just 6-month window of not chasing tail and not doing lines and not drinking every night, and I became a millionaire, and that knowledge has kept me for 20 years later, and you guys never listened to those CDs after I gave them to you. I had a friend of mine one time in 2005, late 2005. He was a meth addict. And he said, one night I was high as hell. It was like 2 a.m. There was this guy, Tony Robbins, on this TV, Ryan. And I don't know who Tony Robbins was. And he goes, and I spent $1,400 fucking dollars buying his CDs, and I've never even taken the plastic off of them. You take them, you like shit like this. I listen to every one of those CDs every day on the way to and from work. I'm listening to one of those CDs to and from work.
Yeah.
At the end of the time, I'm like, oh shit, okay, there's something to this. Here's personal power. Here's how I can become a better personally developed person. Another year goes by, making crazy money. He's like, hey man, you know, what's changed in your life? Thanks for those CDs, bro. Do you want them back? Nah, I don't care about that shit. Like, I just told you what happened. But a lot of people will listen to those CDs and then be like, oh, that's great stuff. I don't know how to do it in my life. That's great stuff, but it won't work for me. But
they'll never take action in
Henry
any way,
Ford
shape,
said
or
it.
form.
Hey, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. I believe I can. I believe this is the craziest thing. I know I cuss a lot. I'm from the South, and I'm not making an excuse from this, but I'm a big believer in God. Me and God, we're best friends. He rides in my truck with me every morning. We talk on the way to work, on the way to the gym. That's my relationship with him. That's my personal relationship with him. That's my dog. And he accepts me for my flaws. He knows who I am, and I accept him for being an almighty power. And my thought process is, if God created me in his image, he surely didn't create me to be average, because I don't think God's average. He surely didn't create me to be a quitter. He surely didn't create me to be insecure. He surely didn't create me. If I'm supposed to, and really what that means is God created man in his image, and what that really means is we're supposed to be a reflection of the greatness that we were created from our divine creator. So how big of an asshole would I be to just be this mediocre person and be like, yeah, God created me in his image, and I'm a fat piece of shit that doesn't do anything in life right. And I'm not saying I'm in perfect shape, and I'm not saying I'm the best reflection of his image, but I'm chasing it every single day. If you've seen my family members, you know that I'm in the best shape of anybody in my family. I've defied genetics, that's for damn sure. And if you've seen the way that my family is dysfunctional, my family of origin is dysfunctional, you'd see that I'm light years ahead of that. And one day, I got to go to God, and he's be like, I made you in my reflection. What'd you do with this? I tried to be the best mirror I could, Brick. I tried to be the best mirror I could. I'm a flawed human, but I literally tried, and I failed a lot, God, but I tried to be the best mirror that I could.
All right, I want to address a question that one of our listeners asked on here, and I'm interested to see how you're going to answer this, because the other night I was watching Build Your Machine, and you had like a whole segment about your things not to do, and one of them was politics. And yet, I watched another video here just a week ago where you're like, sales guys, like, you can't avoid this. Like, was sales not better You know,
2
4
years
years
ago,
ago,
yeah.
2 years ago, whatever. So one of our listeners, one of my good friends, is asking, how do you explain the circus that is modern politics now to your kids?
You know, my kids aren't really involved in all that. My 13-year-old, he's like he lives with his mom half the time and me half the time. His mom's addicted to Fox News, so he's always got a question about Joe Biden or Trump. But the reality is, you know, I don't let my kids watch Disney. My kids have never been to Disneyland. I don't let my kids watch, listen, I want to explain gay or straight to them. I don't want society to explain that to them. I want to explain fentanyl to them. I don't want society to explain that to them. And so I just try to not shelter them, but I show them better options. Like, a lot of people's kids are on YouTube and Oculus and stuff, and my kids do that too a little bit, but my kids go fishing and hunting and ride ranch equipment and drive ATVs. They have cows that they tend to, yards that they mow. You know, I keep them so occupied in other stuff that they don't care about politics, you know?
No, they're around other great men and women.
But the force of average has such a chokehold on this country right now. People are voting for their own demise. People are cheering for the downfall of the greatest country to ever be established. People are begging communism to come in. They don't even know. Like, people are here from America that are wanting us to be like other countries that are war-torn and fucking horrible, and they don't even understand how asinine that is, you know? And it's really sad because I'm a proud Texan first, and then I'm an American. You know, I know that's not popular to say, but I'm a fucking Texan first because I have not lived in America. I have lived in Texas my whole entire life, 45 years here. And I visited a lot of places across the globe, but I have lived only in one place. So I'm a Texan by nature. And I think our state's really the only state that's like that. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And, but I'm a Texan, and I'm always like, man, we just need to leave this place, man. They don't get it. You know what I mean? They just don't get it. But my kids, we don't watch Fox News at home. I get my news from Andy Frisella, Patrick Bet-David, and Joe Rogan. And so I listen. I own a ranch in Oklahoma. We got a lot of cattle. We got a lot of acreage. We got a lot of four-wheelers. We got a lot of tractors. We got a house. We got 14 lakes, fishing, hunting, whatever you want to do. We live there on the weekends. And it's an hour and a half, hour and 45-minute drive from door to door. And so I'll load up my kids and my wife, obviously, and we'll get on the road. And I turn on Patrick Bet-David. I turn on Andy Frisella. I turn on Joe Rogan. And I think the kids are looking at their phones or their iPads or whatever, and the baby girl's asleep, you know what I mean? But the other day I get to the ranch, it's about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago. I get to the ranch, and I've been listening to Joe Rogan interview this scientist. And I get there, and Jackson's been on his phone the whole time. And he hits me up, and he goes, Dad, do you really think there's a Goldilocks zone where maybe Earth is only going to be here for a finite amount of time and Mars is next, or Mars used to be Earth? And he's asking all these questions, and I'm like, see, that's why I listen to these audio books and podcasts and stuff. You're not going to come in my house and Fox News be on. You know what I mean? You're not going to come in my house and CNBC or CNN is going to be on. And I'm an independent. I'm not left or right. I'm an independent thinker. I'm not swayed by anybody. I like Trump, don't like Kamala Harris, but I liked Obama, didn't like Mitt Romney. I liked George Bush, didn't like Quayle or whatever his name was, Gore, that ran against him. I liked Bill Clinton, didn't like Quayle when he ran against him. So I'm an independent thinker, right? I'm not one side or the other. And I think it's weird if you pledge allegiance to one side or the other. It's like, no matter what idiot they put in here or what bad actor, we're on this team. I think
they both flip-flop.
Dude, I love the Dallas Cowboys, but they suck every year. So if the Chiefs are winning right now, I want to cheer on the Chiefs too. You know what I'm saying? I love the Cowboys.
Damn you bandwagoner, Ryan Stewman.
Right now, it's not their time. I want to be on the bandwagon of winners that want to do good things. I don't want to be on just because they're losers and they're doing bad decisions, but I'm with them for life. I'm not that motherfucker. I'm an independent thinker. And so, you know, I try to put my kids around other independent thinkers. When they hear Andy Frisella's big idol of mine, mentor of mine, whatever you want to call it. And Andy's like, look, I'm not right or left either, but like clearly the choice is the choice, you know, and my kids are hearing these things and the way that they're independent thinkers and stuff versus just Fox News or just CNN, to where it's only one-sided or the other. And then a lot of times the guys that I talk to, they're talking about Patrick Bet-David, which we know personally, Andy Frisella, which we know personally. And my kids have met Patrick, not Andy, but they're talking about how to solve those problems, not just talking about the problem. So my kids are like, oh, that's why it's messed up, and here's how I or we can fix it. And man, I'm just like, they're just hearing that in the background versus, just complaining about it like the mainstream media does.
Oh, that drives me crazy. Like, if we could fix communication in the world, it would be such a better place.
We live in a weird time. Like Mark Cuban, he's saying, first of all, Mark Cuban's not rich enough to do these things, but he's like, I'd like to buy Fox News and X and turn them around. Like, first of all, calm the fuck down, Mark. You got $5 billion, which is a respectable amount of money. He's definitely not poor. Fox is worth $15 million. Twitter's probably worth a billion. Twitter's probably worth $100 billion. Elon bought it for $40 billion, but it's probably worth 100, maybe more at this moment. You're out of your category. That's like me saying I want to buy the, Trump Tower or some shit. Like, I don't got the credit, the ambassadors, or any of that shit to do that. But he's like so upset that somebody that has a different ideology than him, he's like, I want to silence all of them. And I'm like, that's what's wrong with our country. If we see people that are Democrats and Republicans, and they're not talking, they're just arguing. First of all, arguments are never won. Arguments just piss two people off. And then they block each other, and they never have a conversation about why. And then we'll watch guys like, I like Tucker, not Tucker Carlson, I like him too, but Piers Morgan. He seems to be a sensible guy lately. And he'll bring Democrats and Republicans on his show. And it seems like the Democrats, they just want to argue these talking points. And it seems like the guys on the right are just like, hey man, what about this? And they, I don't care about that. But like, you probably should.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, higher gas prices affect us all. If we go to war with Iran, higher gas prices, I promise you. Because they're Muslim and they're tied in with all the OPEC people, and our shit's gonna go up again, which costs you money, which means that it costs you, instead of $100 to fill up your tank if you drive a truck like I do, that's $150. Groceries are gonna go up. All these things are gonna go up, and I'm not saying it's one party or the other, but you gotta be able to pay attention to what's best for me. Not what team I'm on, not how I agree with this person's personality. Trump is an asshole, and I hate the way that he fucking speaks with his fucking hands and repeating himself. Drives me crazy. But what's going to be the best thing for me, right?
You don't want the capital gains tax?
Oh man, yeah, exactly. Oh, you're not going to tax overtime? That sounds fucking amazing. You're not going to tax tips? That sounds amazing. You're not going to get a capital gains tax that's going to stay low? That sounds amazing. No matter what level of the income spectrum you're on, versus the other team that's like, yeah, we're going to give all your money to people that don't even belong here or have permission to be here in the first place. You got to think, what's in it for me? Stop thinking that, like, we don't live in a country where we're required to care about everybody else. That's not how America was founded.
But it's that damn sheep-minded mentality that everybody just, people put more effort into following everybody else than they do into thinking as individuals.
And look, Puff Daddy's proven right now in real time that the people that you look up to and you listen to, they ain't who you think they are.
Yeah.
Look,
take that.
I've been deep in the celebrity world for a long time, and I have been highly disappointed. People ain't who you think you are. Everybody shits, showers, pisses, makes mistakes. These people aren't who you think you are. A lot of them are paid actors. We live in a big psyop, and I'm not trying to go all tinfoil here, but a lot of the people that folks get their information from and think a certain way from don't even think that way in reality anyway. They're only doing that because they get paid.
13 years, and when I got to meet all the celebrities I ever thought was somebody, number one, they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you. But if you would notice the way, just today it was announced, just to pivot towards the record industry, everything is going, what is the 80-20 rule? 20% own 80% of everything?
Yep.
Universal Records is about to own every single record company on the planet. And when the Puffy shit just hit, Universal, every album you ever see is going to have a Universal sticker on it.
They're going to do them like Michael Jackson. They're going to do the same thing.
Just crush everything and come after it, and just, but the world, I shouldn't say the world, but the United States, man, damn, what is going on?
And look, people, I'm not here to persuade your vote, but you need to ask whether you like a person or not. Look, I can do business with somebody I don't like. If it benefits me and it's ethical, I don't have to like you to do business with you.
Amen. Business
is business. I got a lot of people that I do business with that I don't agree with what they do in their personal life, but on the business side, their product and what they do makes sense. You have to think the same way about politics. You can't be, oh, I don't like this person, so even though they're going to benefit me, I'm going to vote against myself. That's crazy. That's craziness. You know what I mean? And I'm not telling you to vote one way or another, but you got to figure out the one right now that has zero policy versus the one that's saying that we've all experienced before. I don't know anybody that's like, dude, my life's so much better in 2024 than it was, 2016 to 2022. I ain't met nobody.
Not one.
I have family that will argue that to the bone, man. It's
what are they on, government
infuriating.
assistance?
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like the only people.
No, they're not.
The only people doing better on government assistance.
So we don't talk politics.
Man, I messed up.
Stay away from it because, man, it's terrible.
I messed up, and after church, I call them the old lady gang. I take my mom's friends out to lunch after church, and I messed up and had this conversation at a table of old ladies.
They weren't trying to hear it.
Man, I damn near got my ass whooped with a belt like I was 6 years old. Like when I spoke, I said, but think about the way our money was and this. I said, nah, he should shut the hell up. But we was good. When all of them stopped eating, forks hit the plate, and they all turned to me at one time. And I was just like, look, let me explain while I'm saying it. They didn't want to hear nothing I had to say. It was all based on who the person was, what they looked like, and that was the only argument that they had. That was it.
Well, you embarrass somebody or make them feel like they're wrong, they're gonna argue with this brick wall.
Yeah, it's true.
To try to save face.
Man, they
I've watched it happen
quick.
to him publicly in the last 2 weeks, like terribly. Just shot after shot, and I want to commend you for how you fucking handled it. Like
fleas on a dog, baby.
I know, but I hope that I'm at a point in my life that I could handle something like that well, because it sucks when people really personally attack you.
Well, when you tell people that numbers don't lie.
But people
hell.
also I don't know. I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for myself and say that one of the reasons I was drawn to Apex and wanting to meet Ryan Stewman, wanting to get to know Ryan Stewman, wanting to befriend Ryan Stewman, wanting to network with Ryan Stewman was because of the shit I watched him go through and how he handled it. But if you flip that around, and the only way I can imagine it, and this is from personal experience of watching some of this, that if he called you out or you failed at doing something and or didn't follow the rules of engagement, the G code, whatever, if you didn't do that and you turned around and or watched him going through that and then all of a sudden you flip the script, that's kind of fucked up. Actually, it's really fucked up, but I just don't understand that. You kind of went to him, or you wanted to be coached by him, or you wanted to learn from him to see how, when that kind of shit happens, when you're facing failure, when you're facing something hard,
how do you do it?
How do you get past it? Yep. And I don't want to bring up a bunch of personal shit, and I don't want to dive into this too much. I don't know why I started down this path, because it ends up going down here, but MDM this year, you didn't just, it was a great event. Financially, I don't think it was a great event for you. I
fucking lost my ass first time in my life. And first time in my career, lost my ass.
And yet people are slamming you for this shit while you're still dealing with it. And I don't understand.
But here's the thing. I lost more money on that event, and I'm still rolling, than any of those people have ever made in a year, 2 years, 3 years of their fucking life.
Yeah.
That's who I really am. And here's the truth, though. This isn't the year for events.
No.
You know why? Because people can't afford plane tickets. People can't afford high expensive, not the masses, not the thousands of. I still had 1,000 people there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And but here's the reality of this. You're always going to get big talk from the cheap seats. You're always going to have armchair quarterbacks. But here's the thing: people come to me, and this is going to be a good lesson for everybody watching. people come to me and they hire me or they want to get with me because they say, man, I've watched you I've heard you overcome so many struggles. And then when they see me in real time go through a struggle because an ex-employee or a client that didn't cut it or somebody that didn't keep their word, whatever the reason is, they're like, oh man, I don't know if I can be attached to you anymore. I'm like, wait a minute. So I got problems and you're so weak, you tap out over my problems?
Yeah, like you don't even know the full story.
No, fuck the story.
And it's not even my problem.
But you see, so you overcome in prison and all this shit attracted you to me to learn how to overcome problems, but you see me have a problem in real time and you tap out? What kind of fucking coward are you, bro?
Because of your problem.
Because of my problem. It's not even your fucking problem. And you're quitting over my problems? Like, you said you wanted to learn how to fucking be this guy. My lot in life is to fight the force of average, which means I'm gonna have constant struggles, and you're gonna get to real time watch me overcome these struggles. That's my lot in this life. That's what I get to be an example of, a guy that gets to beat all the accusations, all the everything else, kind of like the ex-president that we're watching go through right now.
Yeah.
And what happens with the ex-president? He did this 6 months later. Oh, turns out that wasn't real, right? It always happens with me too, right? But I watch people tap out and go, man, I don't want to be a part of this. It's like, wait, you're quitting a pursuit of greatness over my problem. It's not even your fucking problem, bro. You know what I mean? Take a seat and watch the master class of how to overcome this shit. It just takes time, not overnight.
Yeah.
But here's the greatest thing that so many people miss. Every book, every magazine, every movie, every story, if Hollywood was filled with stories of just a perfect life, we wouldn't watch it. Where's that movie at? Yeah. Here's how every great book, every great story, every hit, every Oscar, it was good. Shit got fucked up. They refused to quit. They figured it out and they won, and we celebrated at the end. So if you're going through that middle part in your life, refuse to quit, figure it out, and win, and they'll celebrate you again. There's going to be a lot of people. We see every movie. They're doing good. Things are fine. Shit gets hard. Friends quit on them. Friends snitch on them. Friends tell on them. People leave them, and then they go win, and then all those people want back in their life. Hey, man, I knew you had it all along. I believed in you all along. I didn't tell you that, and I totally really didn't believe that, but that's the beauty of this. It's like our life story one day might wind up in a book. It might wind up, we don't know, there might one day be a third testament of the Bible where it's telling stories about you and me. Every story in the Bible was Moses was a murderer, then Moses was delegated to kill his son, then Moses led the Jews to salvation. Yeah, right? Noah was a drunk. Noah built an ark, and everybody said he was a fucking idiot for building an ark. Noah saved the world, right? David was a little bitty tiny ginger guy, and David was getting bullied by Goliath. David fucked Goliath up. Everybody's like, yeah. Like, Solomon was the richest man to ever live. Solomon had way too many hoes and too much money and too many problems in his life. Solomon ended up being the wisest man to ever live. Jesus was born from a virgin. That's suspect, right? Like, think about this. We all think, oh, Virgin Mary was praised. You know people in that town, like, Mary's a whore. Think about this. You know how it works. Mary's pregnant. Joseph ain't fucked her. She's a whore. Jesus comes out, 10 years old, teaching rabbis. They hate him. He's flipping tables. Then they hang his ass on a cross, and now he celebrates. Paul was in prison. Paul spread the gospel, and now we celebrate. But when you go through a struggle, or when I go through a struggle, we're supposed to quit? Name a good story in the Bible, in Hollywood, in a magazine, where the protagonist quit in the middle of the shit. Don't exist. So what I would recommend anybody that may be from that realm watching me, get your popcorn and enjoy the story, because it's going to have a great ending in the end.
I'm glad you kept going with that, because I don't know where to go after that one, because you just like absolutely iced the cake with that one.
It's the truth.
Yeah, I mean, all right.
It's the truth. Enjoy the show.
Enjoy the show.
It's a hell of a story.
So I know you got to do something fairly recently that was kind of a goal for you, but the way it got put on you, you weren't prepared. You weren't expecting it. You actually wanted to try doing stand-up comedy.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
And the way I understand it, you kind of got thrown on the spot where, like, you thought, like, this was going to be like a hey, Ryan Stewman's coming to speak. And I think you said something along those like, I'm the motherfucker you bring on after lunch. When people's bellies are full and they need to be like livened back up and I just need to drop some shit on them.
I'm the hype man.
That's my spot.
Yeah.
But then like you got told like, hey, I'm taking this spot. And oh, by the way, you're only speaking for 20 minutes, but you're doing a comedy routine. All right. First and foremost, how did you like process that? What did you like do? Because you obviously didn't like, because the one thing I learned was in doing my speaking thing is like, I started learning the game of like how guys like you prepare to do something live and to give a presentation, how to use a teleprompter. You have slides, you have music, you have all these things. But I mean, like, however, whatever you do, whether you speak off a podium, whether you just like, you know your shit, however you do it. But I learned the processes and how you like work through that. So you had no prep. Like, yeah, it's something you said and put out into the universe. I want to do this one day. Like, I want to do stand up. And then out of left field, it gets thrown on you. So how'd you tackle that, man? And I want to hear the best joke you threw out there from that.
Well, I'm a storyteller. If you've noticed that from this episode, if you've never met me before, I'm a storyteller. And I have my own way of telling stories. I'm a Southern storyteller. Well, I always have this theory that it's not my joke, but it's something that it's not even a joke. But when I was young, my dad told me a joke. He said, you know the difference between a fairy tale in the North and the South is, and this isn't my joke. I'll get into that in a minute. But he says a fairy tale told in the North goes in a galaxy long, far away. And a fairy tale in the South, y'all ain't gonna believe this shit, right? Right? And so I'm like the y'all ain't gonna believe this shit kind of guy. And my dad I grew up and I was my adopted dad. He always listened to cassettes from Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Eddie Murphy. Like I remember when Delirious from Eddie Murphy in the 80s was out. I'm like 8, 9 years old watching Mr. Fuck You Man, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, oh my God, like I want to do that. Like I want to make people happy like that. But later on in life, I become a car wash guy and a mortgage guy, and then this motivational guy, and it's like. It's fun. I enjoy it. It's very fulfilling. But like in reality, I'm funny. You know, there's a screenshot passing around the internet right now from 2016, 2017, where one of my clients is like, one of my ex-employees rather, sharing this screenshot going, this is how he used to talk to us. And I'm like, you got to suck dick for a sale today. You better close the sale. I'm just a funny guy like that, right?
Yeah.
It's totally taken out of context. And not even out of context. I'm that motherfucker to say shit like that. I'm a funny guy. And so... You know, I've always wanted to be a comedian. You know, I don't play an instrument. I'm a speaker. And so about 3 years ago, so that was a post today, but 3 years ago that actually happened today.
Yeah.
And I show up in Huntington Beach to speak at this event. And I'm usually the guy after lunch, like he said, where I'm like, got to hype the crowd back up, you know, with my motivational story and stuff. And I'm on at like 8 o'clock at night. And I'm like, what? First of all, how the hell are we rolling at 8 o'clock at night? But it was like the VIP dinner. And so I get there and the guy's like, yeah, man, I heard a post of yours that you want to be a comedian. Tonight's your night. Fuck, I don't have any material for this shit. I got like 3 hours to prepare for it. But my biggest, see, a lot of people, they're like, in my industry, they're like, I want to be a speaker. Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, such and such. I want to be like Dave Chappelle. First of all, now we're about to get deep. Dave Chappelle told a story to Joe Rogan one time about how he had the #1 show on network television and he walked out because he didn't agree with them, and it took him 10 years of being blackballed, called crazy, motherfucked by Hollywood and everything else. And then 10 years later, Netflix called him and said, you want to make $50 million? And we just watched 2 years ago Chappelle bully the networks into giving him the rights back to Chappelle's show. So I'm like, hopefully, it doesn't take me 10 years to get back.
Yeah.
But I've been through that, and that's an inspiring story. And Dave went from telling jokes to telling stories that were funny. And I'm like, so that's my biggest inspiration is Dave Chappelle, for speaking, for comedy, for motivation, for anything, man. Because Dave will tell you some motivating shit, but it's funny and it allows your subconscious to soak it in. So I'm like, okay, I got 3 hours. Let me go watch some Dave Chappelle shit. Let me go watch some Joe Rogan. Those are my two biggest influences in the speaking industry, period. And I'm like, okay, so comedy is just the truth. That's all it is, right? We all have differences. And so comedy sucked the last few years because you can't say the truth anymore. Oh. They've silenced the truth. And so nobody's funny anymore. This PC shit, the fuck, it's not funny. So I'm gonna tell the truth about myself. The biggest thing about me, another big influence, is Eminem's 8 Mile. He goes and talks all that shit. What do you gotta say? And that's how I've always lived my life. If I just talk shit about myself and I'm just transparent and real about how fucking bad or good I am, then what are you gonna say? If I tell you I've been in prison, if I tell you I've been divorced, then what are you gonna say bad about me? Oh, he's a convict. Yeah, he talks about that, right? So I get up on stage, or I get about to get on stage, and they're like, Tito Ortiz is here watching. And at that time, he was like the mayor of Huntington Beach. Okay, and I'm like, oh shit, okay. So I gotta impress a celebrity. They said Oscar De La Hoya's here too. Shit, right? Mike Tyson will be here tomorrow, and they're definitely gonna tell Mike if you suck or not. So you need to, this is your first time ever being a comedian, which is hard.
Yeah.
So.
Don't just speak, be funny.
So like, I got 3 hours to prepare for this stuff. So I get up there, and I've done this 3 times now. The second time that I did it was at an event for Cole Hatter and Thrive in Las Vegas, and Tim Grover was in the audience. And when I got off the stage, Tim Grover walked right over to the edge of the stage. He goes, you got balls of steel to be in your industry doing what you do and say that shit. You're fucking crazy. And he goes, I love it, right? Like, I've been friends with Tim ever since. And so that night, tell a few jokes, got people right and everything else. But the flagship joke that ended the night was, I flew here private because I'm not allowed at the airport anymore. And I was kicked off of American Airlines for the following reasons. I have a serious marijuana problem, and 3 years ago I still did, so I'm telling this in real time. I have a serious marijuana problem. You put me on a commercial airline, I'm still gonna smoke weed. You put me in a fucking wherever, I'm still gonna smoke weed. I've smoked weed on a train, in a plane, I'm insane, I don't care. So I'm on this flight to New York, and it's like a 5-hour flight, and I go into the bathroom, and guys, pay close attention. This is very good knowledge too. I go into the bathroom of the plane because it was back when you had to wear a mask. And you remember the mask Nazis? These stewardess and flight attendants were complete assholes to everybody if you took your mask off for a minute. So
especially going to New York.
So they're watching everybody to see if you take a mask off. I'm used to just hitting the vape and blowing it out the window, you know, because the window will suck that shit up. But you can't do that in 2022, 2021 with your mask on. And I'm like, fuck. So I go into the bathroom of the airplane, and I hit my tobacco vape, the nicotine vape, right? Blow it out. Alarm don't go off. I'm like, I'm good. So I pull out my weed vape, and I hit this weed vape. Bam, bam, bam. The fucking alarm's going off. We're 35,000 feet in the air, probably over Tennessee, halfway to New York. The fucking alarm's going off. I gotta make a split-second decision. I come running out of the bathroom. Holy shit, I think the plane's on fire! They're in there with a fucking fire extinguisher, freaking the fuck out. Everybody in the front row's freaking out. Everybody in the back's freaking out. They think this plane's on fire. Everybody in the whole jet, pilot, stewardess, the passengers, except for me, I know we're all gonna be fine, because I just smoked weed in the bathroom just trying to play the shit off. But I'm sitting in like section 1A, right, because I'm in business class, and I sit down, and I throw the vape in between the seats, right? And this little old lady looks at me, and she's like, I can just see her calm down. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Don't fucking tell nobody. I know you see me do that shit. I'm trying to like mouth the shit. Meanwhile, they got a fire extinguisher. They're looking for the flame. The lady comes up to me, that's this masked Nazi flight attendant. She goes, sir, were you smoking in the bathroom? Babe, I ain't even got a lighter. I don't know what could have sent that. I have no idea. I don't have a vape. I don't have a lighter. I don't know anything. She goes, it must have been a malfunction. I was like, yeah, it must have been a malfunction. I don't know. Everybody on the plane is thinking we're gonna die, except for me and that old lady. And so a couple minutes later, they came up to me and they said, well, we don't know what happened, so we're just gonna assume that you weren't smoking. I was like, I don't even have a lighter. I don't even smoke in there, right? And so But that split-second decision to run out of there, help, the plane's on fire! Everybody's freaking out. Like, the whole jet's freaking out, right? Except for me and that little old lady. And so, and again, I'm kind of just paraphrasing the joke. It hit a lot better back then. But me and that old lady, and I got off the jet, and I have not been back, still to this day, I have not been back to a commercial airport. I've been to JSX a couple times, and I'm gonna go to Southwest tomorrow, but I have not been back to a commercial airport since. And I'm like, FAA gonna be looking for me, DEA gonna be looking for me. I know I'm about to get a letter in the mail.
Yeah.
I hadn't done it, man.
Nope.
Nope. But dude, so I just telling real life shit. I try to keep it short for the podcast here, but you know, just going out there and telling real life shit, you know. The time that Tim Grover told me that you got balls of steel, I said, you know, I was in New Orleans this one time, and I'd never been to New Orleans before. I had this Cajun homeboy named Dre, and Dre's a good friend of mine. He's dead now, but he was a good friend of mine, and he takes me on Bourbon Street for the first time ever, and I have a couple of hand grenades. The rule is 2 hand grenades. If you have 3, you're fucked. It's kind of like Mambo taxis here in Texas, you know what I mean?
2 is pushing it.
And I'm 120 pounds, golf ball team, was a young man. So he finds this I don't know what you're supposed to call him this day, but a dude that's dressed as a woman, right? We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah,
for
we'll go with
censorship
that. Yeah.
And so I'm passed out kind of, and he has this dude dressed as a woman put his or her hand around, their hand around me, and he takes a picture on a Polaroid camera. This is how long ago this is. So flash forward 2 years, I go to prison. You know, and I'm in prison, and I get a letter from my buddy Dre, and the prison guards are laughing at me. They're like, "Oh shit, you're fucked, bro." I'm like, "What, bro? This is my boy Dre, man." I pull it up, and I pull that picture out. He sent me that fucking Polaroid in prison, right?
No way. And you remained friends?
And well, he's dead now. But but yes, that's a real friend to do some fucked up shit to you like that. And the guard grabs that picture out and he goes, "Stewman was out there doing gay shit in the real world." And I'm like, "Oh fuck, there's like 1,000 inmates in here that got a picture of me and a tranny." And you know, it was a little bit of a rough time, right? And I told that joke on the stage, that story on stage, and everybody's dying laughing. Again, I told a longer version of it. And Tim Grover's like, "You crazy, man. I can't believe you would even say some shit like that on stage in front of people." But they thought it was funny. And I was like, yeah, you know, it's just telling real stories, you know.
So that whole roommate experience we were talking about, they did almost that same shit to me. So like, I had just gone through a horrible divorce.
That's how you know they're real friends though, bro. Because real friends fuck with each other.
So we got through this divorce. I had the master bedroom, and I had a computer in there. So I had to lock my room when I leave, so that those fuckers wouldn't be in there on my computer. Because God knows what they would do if they were in there on my computer. Well, I made the mistake of I locked my door, but I didn't lock my computer. So I'm finally out with like a new girlfriend that I'm going on a date with, and we're out at the movie theater, and bro, I'm sitting in the movie theater, and my phone will not stop. Like, you know, the first couple times you're like trying to ignore it.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm just not gonna pay attention to this. Then it like just won't stop. And I look down and see it's my family. My family's like, "Hey, if you're not at home, you need to go check your I think it was MySpace at the time. They're like, "You need to check your MySpace." I'm like, "What are you all talking about?" I'm like, "I'm at a movie on a date. Like, I'm not gonna be home for a while." They're like, "No, like you really need to go handle this." Like, and then I have other friends.
Back then you couldn't log in from your phone. You had to go to a computer.
No. Like, this is like Motorola Razr shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, like what's going on? Like, all of a sudden they're like, "Dude, whoever, I know this wasn't you, but whoever wrote that should get like a Nobel Peace Prize award for like what they wrote." And like, so my 2 roommates, who will leave unnamed, literally went on MySpace on my profile because I didn't log out of my shit. They busted in my room door because they wanted to get online and place bets and play on the online gambling casino. And they get on my MySpace and they posted a whole thing that was like, "I'm gay, this is why I got divorced. I'm coming out of the closet. I mean, like, they blasted me.
Dude, the early 2000s, 90s were greatness,
and
man.
it was so perfectly written, but, like, I had to give him credit. I was like, I can do nothing but, like,
yeah.
All right,
everybody believed him, but
game on, bitches. Yeah. It's on. It's war now.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, one of them was, like, super jacked, and he took this, like, amazing picture of him holding like those giant wine bottles in the backyard, flexing with no shirt on. And yeah, like I guess that's right when circle jerk became a thing. So I posted his picture on there, and he got so many calls and things. He was like the billboard ad for a little while. It was pretty epic. But yeah, it's pretty bad when that happens.
Yeah, well, at least you weren't in prison fighting off people trying to convince them that you weren't one of those guys.
Ooh, yeah, no, I wouldn't want to do that. Not ever. Well, dude, I want to thank you for coming on, man. Like, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure to get to know you more and to like really get to rap with you. So we kind of like wrap up every show with the same two things every time, and like, I can't wait to hear what your answers are. Because I don't think you've seen this before, and this is going to be Stewman like straight off the cuff. And I know he's going to drop a bomb on you, especially on the first one. So, Common Sense the Podcast. You get to leave your children one piece of advice. What's that piece of advice you're leaving them with?
You know, for me, we, as a family, we have 4 core values, and it's really my life, my business, and everything. And, you know, in my family, I have 4 kids and a wife, and when we do dinner, obviously I'm not doing dinner tonight because I'm here, but when we do...
I didn't make you come on date night.
No, it's okay. That was last night.
I know. I know your schedule.
We have a schedule. Like, me and my wife, we date each other once a week. We go on date night every single Wednesday. We do family huddle, which is we sit around the table and we say praise and prayer. What was the best part of your day and what do you need a prayer for? Funny thing is, my kids have never prayed for themselves. They always say somebody else, a kid at school, friend, each other. And then we recite our core values and I pray for them. And the one piece of advice I've already given my kids, you know, it's like, have responsibility, which means we make no excuses. Have integrity, which means we do what we say we're going to do when we say we're going to do it. Be a servant, which means that we go above and beyond. And excellence, which means that we do the work. I've already left them with that, man. You know, and I've drilled this into their head. My 3-year-old, my 7-year-old, my 12-year-old, my 13-year-old, they know that. I've already left them with that. And, you know, my kids will come to the office with a new employee. They'll be like, you know the core values? Yeah, man, it's, if you're going to stick around here, you better learn that quick. My dad don't play.
Yeah.
It's responsibility, integrity, service, and excellence, and here's what they mean. My kids will do that to the new guys, not because I say, hey, go fuck with the new guy, but they know. They're like, you ain't going to make it here if you don't learn this stuff, because my dad's very serious about this. He's serious at home. He's serious at work. It's hilarious.
I watched him at the first event, like, man, like, the first event I went to, like, halfway through, I ended up, like, man, I was sick as shit. Like, it just started hitting me, like, halfway through. Like, when the guy that wrote Average Sucks quit talking, I was so glad you had the IV people there. Like, I legit went and signed up, had no intention to do that. I was like, man, I hope this helps me. Like,
yeah. I'm glad these people are
I
here.
paid money for this. Like, these people are awesome. I mean, you had Derek there. You had Derek Harper there. You had
that guy's a legend.
Brandon Bingham there. Like, I mean, you had dudes that were just killing it. And I was like, man, I don't want to miss this. Like, but I mean, like, I was having a tough day. Like, I legit went home and was like sick as shit for a few days. But like that IV thing, man, like that's the only thing that got me through it. But I remember I took a break to go out and throw a Zen in, and like went out back, and I forget, it was one of your guys running around, but like one of your kids, man, one of your boys, and I apologize, I don't know their names.
That's all right.
But like, he was hammering one of these dudes. One of these dudes went to throw something in the trash basket, missed, and looked at it, looked at him, and walked right on by.
Oh, I bet that was Colton, my 7-year-old.
And he lit his ass up. I mean, he was like, so you miss and now you're not responsible? And I was like
Colton.
I was like, holy shit, this little kid's giving him the business. And he's like, my bad, little man, my bad. And he like went back, picked his shit up, and threw it in the trash can. I was like, that was a Stewman kid. I guarantee it.
100% it was. Sounds just like Colton, my 7-year-old. He is he's the stickler for the rules. He's the rule keeper of the family. So
right on.
Yeah.
All right, man. So now's the fun part. And you can go wherever you want with this. So we like to ask everybody to give us their 2 cents. It can be just about whatever. I mean, maybe it's something you wanted to talk about tonight that I didn't ask you about, or just maybe whatever's on your mind and you just want to put out there for Common Sense Podcast.
Well, common sense isn't so common anymore because a lot of people have ignored it. The things that were instilled in my generation, hard work equals success, integrity equals success, doing those kind of things equals success, that's not so common anymore. So my 2 cents is this. We need more people that are readers and learners and action takers. We need more people who are thinkers and doers and achievers. We need more people who vote with how it's going to benefit them. We need more people who think about others but vote how it's going to affect them personally. So my 2 cents is really this. God created you in his image. And you have to ask yourself, are you being a good reflection of that image? And if it's not an answer that you like, maybe it's time that you magnify the image of the one that made us all in the right way instead of doing it maybe the way that you're doing it right now. And that should be common sense. And that's my 2 cents, that if you're not representing the way that you should, change that.
Awesome, man. Brother, I want to thank you. I really appreciate you coming and spending the time with us, man. I know you're a busy man, and I appreciate your time. And, man, I love being a part of what you're doing.
Man, hopefully, you know what? I appreciate that. The big thing is hopefully we gave back to the people tonight. Hopefully they took something home with them. Hopefully they had a change of mindset. If you enjoyed this, share it with somebody and go, you're never going to believe what this Southerner who cusses a whole bunch and, you know, talks about his kids and God. Never heard nobody quote the Bible with the F word in it before. But send it out to your people, man, because I'm sure a lot of people need to hear this. And the more that we wake people up to who the potential that they could be, the better this place is going to be. And I think we did a little bit of that tonight. So share it with somebody.
I hope so, man. And you guys, he ain't going to promote himself because he won't do that on a podcast like this. But I'm going to tell you, like, I'm a member at Apex. I'm going to be more involved at Apex. And if you want to know more about him, check his shit out, man. Like, I didn't want to be a fanboy. Like, I have like a concert t-shirt rule. Like, your average sucks. And the Apex Integrity shirt, like the Integrity shirt, I wear that all the fucking time. But like, I'm wearing
the core values now.
Yeah, you got the core values rolling. I mean, like, you know, you guys see what he's about. You see what he's doing. Check it out. He didn't go into depth on like what Apex is, all the other things he offers. We may have mentioned Closer Capital, but I mean, you guys have trouble getting things funded or you need lending, you have lending issues, check him out. I mean, that's all I'm going to say. Like, dude runs a top-notch shop. He's involved in a lot of shit. You want to learn more about like funnels, phone sites.
I own a lot of businesses. We didn't even get into that.
I mean, like, we didn't get into any of that really, but like, I just want people to know, like, go check his shit out. Like, I mean, there's not, like he said earlier, there's not a lot of Stewmans. You can find his shit. Google Apex, Ryan Stewman. You can find this stuff. Like, I don't boast about a lot of things or really push things, but like, this is something I'm a part of. This is something I do stuff with. You guys in the multifamily industry, god damn, I can't even talk tonight.
We've had a couple good drinks.
Yeah, we've had a couple good drinks. Apparently too many. But like Bronson McMahon with MFI, Bronson's a part of Apex. I know when I reached out to him early on, he was like, yo, you're doing stuff with Stewman? I was like, well, I've gone to a few events. He's like, you have any questions, call, ask me. That's the way everybody is at Apex.
Yeah,
so,
we got a guy for everything.
Yeah, so check it out. I mean, even if you want to network with more people, he knows the guys. You need to save money on taxes,
we know
call him.
Yep.
You need to like learn how to do funnels or build websites. He's got those people. So you guys check Stewman out. I hope you guys will be a part of it, and I hope you guys enjoyed this show. We'll see you again next week. Peace.